Good morning, guys. Today is January 9th, 2022, and today I think this is the longest amount of verses that I've read all together. But they need to be read together, but we're gonna, of course, break it down and talk about some certain parts of it. We're finishing up chapter 7, so it's chapter 7 verses 17 through chapter 7 verses 24. Like I said, I think this is the longest chunk of verses, but they all go together and they all need to be read together. So here we go, starting in chapter 7 verses 17. For 40 days the flood waters grew deeper and deeper, covering the ground and lifting the boat high above the earth. As the waters rose higher and higher above the ground, the boat floated safely on the surface. Finally, the water covered even the highest mountains on earth, raising more than 22 feet above the highest peaks. All the living things on earth died: birds, domestic animals, wild animals, small animals that scurry along the ground, and all the people. Everything that breathed and lived on dry land died. God wiped out every living thing on earth: people, livestock, small animals that scurry the ground, and the birds of the sky. All were destroyed. The only people who survived were Noah and those with him on the boat. And the flood waters covered the earth for 150 days. Let's sink in for a second. Remember yesterday I said when God shut the door, that was it. That was Noah's sign that all of this was coming true. And now the waters are rising and rising and rising and rising and rising. And if I was to guess, when Noah looked out the window and saw these waters rising, he probably saw people trying to run to higher ground. It's kind of a contrast to Genesis chapter 1, where God starts talking about creation. He mentions certain things. He mentions livestock. He mentions wild animals. And these words, all the animals that scurried on the ground, birds of the sky, all these words come from the first couple chapters of Genesis. Because he's placing us back into what was supposed to be and what was no longer. God is literally telling us he's destroying all the things that he created. And he's showing us the contrast between creating them and destroying them. But I want to focus on one little section right now. And it's a few words. It's in verse 18, where it says, as the waters rose higher and higher above the ground, the boat floated safely on the surface. So put yourself in Noah's position. You're seeing the waters rising. You're seeing the rain pouring down. And you're on this boat. And the water is moving and thrashing and all this stuff. But your boat, the boat that God told you to build, is floating safely. You are safe. Your family is safe. All the animals that God put on the ark are safe. Everything else, everyone else is not. What is Noah thinking at this moment? Now, it doesn't specifically say what Noah is thinking or his family is thinking. And we always seem to focus on Noah, which is what we should. Because this is what God is telling us. God is telling us Noah's story right now. But I kind of want to focus on his family for a second. His wife is on the ark. His sons, their wives are on the ark. Noah is on the ark. These people had families. I just want to point that out. These people had family members who were not on the ark. Noah's children's grandparents, Noah's parents, Noah's wife's parents, you know, the wives' parents, all destroyed. What would that how would that make you feel? Would you sit there and question, well, why me and why not them? Now, we don't know exactly what kind of family his sons' wives grew up in. And we don't know what family Noah grew up in. But we know that God has pointed out that Noah and his family were righteous. That Noah himself was righteous. But everyone else was wicked. So you're told as Noah's wife that Noah's going to build this boat. And not just a small little boat, but this giant boat. And that you and your children and their wives are going to all get on this boat. And then get all these animals, and the animals are going to get on the boat. And you're going to ride out this giant flood together. And you're going to repopulate the earth. How difficult would that be to, first of all, believe that? Second of all, come to grips with the fact that you are going to be the only people. The only people left on the earth. The only animals that are left on the earth are the ones that God has commanded you to take care of. That's a lot of weight. That is heavy. Now add that heaviness to the fact that now those waters are rising. Now it's real. Sometimes we sit here, and when God tells us to do something difficult, right up until that moment, we sit and we wonder, is this really real? Is this really going to happen? And sometimes you may say, I don't want this to happen. I mean, like I said, they all had family members who were not on the boat. So my question is, above all, and there's so much more we can get into, but have you ever felt like they probably felt? And like I said, this is conjecture because it doesn't state Noah had a difficult time with this, or his wife sat there and asked him numerous times, are you serious? It doesn't state that, but as another human being, I know how I would feel. I would sit there and wonder, why me? Or, are you sure you can't save my great aunt? Are you sure you can't save my son's wife's parents? I bet there are people who Noah and his family members wanted to take with them, but they knew they couldn't. And watching these floodwaters rise, watching it be done, and then sitting in the ark for 150 days, watching these waters over the peaks of the mountains for 150 days. I don't know about you, but that's a lot of time to think. I mean, other than taking care of, I don't even know how many animals. But that's a lot of time to think. What would you think about? Would you think about the people who died? Would you think about the fact that God was so heartbroken that he had to do this? Or that humankind was so wicked that he had to do this? Like, what would you be thinking? Would you think about the pressures that's coming at you once the flood waters go away? And that you have to cultivate the whole world again? Like Adam and Eve? What would you be thinking? And if you were his wife and his children, what would you be focusing on? Would you be sitting there saying, okay, what do we do now? What do we do now? And that's the thing. Sorry, I'm a little tired. That's the thing, is that sometimes in that moment of waiting and waiting to see what it's going to be like, you know, sometimes we're in situations, and we see this over and over again in the Bible. We're in situations where we just wonder, how long? Is this really gonna happen? What do I do now? And this is where we need to turn to God and say, I don't understand. And sometimes he explains it, and sometimes he doesn't. Sometimes he just says, be patient and wait. Be patient. And I don't know about you, but I have such a hard time with being patient. I am not a patient person. I am a give it to me now so I know it's real person. And God challenges me to sit in the moment, even if I don't understand it, to sit in the moment and say, what? Say, wait. Say, be patient. And I struggle with that. I struggle with that hardcore. So I'm wondering if Noah and his family sat there patiently, or if they started to get a little stir crazy on this ark with all these animals in this confined space. Because no matter how big it is, you've got an elephant and like a giraffe. Like, the space becomes smaller instantly. So did they struggle with patience? And the bigger question is when you're struggling with patience, how can you turn to God? How can you turn to Jesus and say, I am struggling with this and I cannot do this on my own. I need your help to be still and to wait. You know, King David had to wait. And so many others had to wait. Moses had to keep going back to Pharaoh, waiting for him to give in and to let the Israelites go. He had to wait. He had to be patient. So, where in your life do you have to wait right now? And is it starting to turn you a little stir crazy? Because I know the things I have to wait for right now, it's starting to turn me a little stir crazy. But in those moments of feeling like you cannot wait any longer, can you turn to God and say, give me the strength to be still. Give me the strength to patiently wait. And I know he will help. So here's my challenge to you today, on this Sunday. Take a Sabbath. Take a Sabbath from everything you always do. Don't do work. Don't do chores, anything like that. And rely on God that he's going to give you the ability to do those things tomorrow. Because God wants us to rest. God wants us to be patient and still and wait. So that's my challenge to you today. I hope you see Jesus in everything you do. And I hope you see Jesus today. and I hope you call upon Him when you're struggling in the weight. I hope you guys have a wonderful day. I'll see you tomorrow.